Hey everyone. So I quit Instagram almost a year and a half ago, and I just wanted to make a video and share my experience and the things that I learned and realized along the way. When I initially quit Instagram and kind of social media in general, I watched a bunch of videos like this, and I just wanted to make one of my own and just share some of the reflections that I've had and why I chose to leave and what my relationship with social media is now. I have been online, like on the internet, for as long as my memory exists. Like, I've always been online. But I first kind of got like a social media account, like the modern version of social media, on my 12th birthday. I got a Facebook account and I've basically been posting since then. I'm 25 years old now, so like over half my life I've been posting and being on social media. And a few years after I started Facebook, I moved to Instagram and kind of stopped using Facebook just because that was like kind of what was happening. That's where it was at. I started posting on Instagram probably like midway through high school, I would say. And for many years, Instagram for me was really fun. I love taking pictures with my friends, like doing photo shoots before we'd go out or like doing a makeup look and taking pictures of it. I loved having an aesthetic feed and having like a themed color and just making everything look really pretty. For many years, it felt basically like a digital scrapbook of my life. And even today, I look back on my feed and what I posted all those years ago, and I'm like, oh, like that was cute. Like, I don't look back on it with shame or regret or anything like that. I would say around like 3 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that, my relationship with Instagram started changing. I wasn't really posting that much anymore. I was more just like scrolling. I feel like this was around the time that Instagram stopped just showing things chronologically and started just showing things algorithmically, meaning like instead of just showing whatever was most recently posted by the people that you follow, Instagram's algorithm was deciding what should be at the top of your feed and like what stories should be shown first and all that kind of thing. And looking back on it, I feel like there probably was a connection between me not being as active on it anymore and Instagram kind of switching to that like algorithmic feed. I feel like I've never vibed with the Instagram algorithm. Like, it always has just felt cruel and manipulative. And I don't know, I feel like the algorithm just kind of started favoring like brand accounts and like celebrity accounts. It no longer just felt like me and my friends posting for each other. It felt like I was more a consumer of advertisements, while I still felt the pressure of being observed by basically like everyone I know, since Instagram kind of became like the new Facebook for me, where you meet people, you get their Instagram, you follow them, and then like they're in your social media feed forever. And I think just like being on social media for so many years and so many like eras of my life, you just start collecting people that you follow and you're just like, why is this person showing up in my feed? Like, I don't know who they are or like what I feel about them at this point. That kind of started like 3-ish years ago, I would say. 1.5 to 2 years ago, I started actually feeling like I had a toxic relationship with Instagram and with my phone in general. Scrolling on my phone started becoming something that I did to avoid thinking about my life or confronting my emotions. When I felt anxious, I would scroll. When I was bored, I would scroll. And I just didn't feel good afterward because there's so much information and materials and messaging that you're receiving when you are scrolling through so many different worlds on social media in your timeline. I just found that even though it may have relieved kind of the instant pressure that I felt in my like day-to-day life, over time, chronically scrolling was making me more anxious and depressed than ever. And I knew that my relationship with my phone and social media was unhealthy, but it also just felt so normal. Like, there was no one really that I talked to that was like, oh, I have a healthy relationship with my phone, except for people who never really had that much of a relationship with their phone. Like, for me, I grew up on computers. The internet's always been such a big part of my life. The people that I saw that were similar to that, where like the internet was a big part of their life or they're growing up, like all of them also felt like they were miserable on their phones too. So I think I just kind of took it as like a given for a while. My thought was kind of like, oh, well, you know, my parents didn't raise me right or whatever, and they let me be on screens, and so like I'm just damned to be like this forever. And just for a long time, I just kind of like let that be my reality. And then 2020, I'm sure a lot of people remember what it was like on the internet in 2020. Hi. Hey, bud. My cat just came to sit on my lap. You can't really see him with this angle of the camera, but you can definitely see his tail. Hello. Okay, I guess he's going to sit on my lap during this video. That's fine. You can stay. Okay. Anyway, so 2020, social media just started blowing up. I feel like there was just a lot of general unrest and discontentedness and genuine societal decay. It was also an election year. People were stuck in the house, and a lot of people didn't really have an outlet for sublimating the chaotic and intense things that they were like seeing online and learning about besides post about it. It felt like a particularly bad time online. This was when it really clicked for me, like social media and specifically Instagram, it's not life. It is a performance of life. And I know that sounds really basic, and I think I always knew that in the positive sense, like that what you see posted by people online is a highlight reel. People edit their pictures to make themselves look better. The way people look on Instagram is like not usually how they look in real life. That side of the toxicity was something that I feel like I had kind of worked through and dealt with, or at least understood about the platform. But I think it was only seeing the negative performance of life that just made me realize Instagram and social media and those platforms, they're not just detrimental to like teenage girls' self-esteem, they're detrimental to the fabric of our society. Media hysteria just hit a fever pitch, and everything was so designed to make people hate each other and feel like there were two groups of people in the society, and you're either with us or you're with them. And I just felt like it was time to go. Like, I don't see any way for me to participate in this ecosystem that isn't like feeding into the negative hysteria. It just felt so detrimental and toxic to everyone involved. And it's not that previously I was unexposed to the terrors of the world and all of a sudden I was like seeing it. Like, I definitely exposed myself to the terrors of the world. Just seeing that play out online, like not just on Instagram, obviously, like there were plenty of other platforms. It felt so bad, and it felt like I was watching everybody have such a bad, detrimental time that it made me feel like there was nothing to lose by leaving. And I finally took the leap from just being a passive lurker to leaving social media and just like trusting that whatever came out of it was going to be better. And I never went back to Instagram. I've been off Instagram for almost a year and a half, as I said. Twitter, like same amount of time. The first thing that I really realized after leaving Instagram was what types of connections were actually valuable to me and added joy to my life and what kinds didn't. I realized that I don't need to see what everyone is up to all the time. I don't need to be clued in on the intimate details of everybody's day-to-day life, some of whom I haven't even like spoken to in years and probably like will never speak to again. For the people that I'm close to even, like I don't need to know what they're doing all the time. And they don't need to be updated on every little thing about me either. Like, that's not necessary for genuine connection and closeness. I know it sounds really silly, but like for me, I feel like I only have so much space in my brain. And filling it with random updates of every person I've ever met just like was not the way to fill it. I know that the unfollow and mute button are always there, but I honestly feel like if you're not constantly being conscious and like reassessing like how you're using the app, like who you follow, your boundaries, etc., like it's really, really difficult to not have an unhealthy relationship to it or to just like let things slip. I just realized like how much of my relationship with other people was being mediated through Instagram specifically. So like instead of like me and some person like having a relationship, I was having a relationship with Instagram and that person was having a relationship with Instagram, and then those two things were interacting with each other. Like Instagram was the constant middleman in a lot of my friendships, and it just doesn't do justice to the actual relationship. Like what a relationship with another person is on Instagram is like your presentation of self online interacting with their presentation of self online. And a lot of people have really messed up relationships to social media, like myself included. And so you're also putting that element into your friendship with people or into your relationship with people. I think like a very basic example of this is like, you know, you see that your crush liked somebody else's photo, or like you notice that one of your friends never views your story. Why don't they view your story? Do they not like you? It's really easy to over-personalize and conflate the way somebody else interacts with Instagram as them interacting with you, when that's not like what's happening. I found that in the case of like many of my really close friends, Instagram actually made me feel like more distant from them because I interacted more with their performance of self than I did one-on-one with them, just because of like constant updates on Instagram stories and like constant scrolling. And I found that a lot of my relationships improved when I removed that from the equation. Like very few of my genuine relationships suffered because I wasn't getting like a heart emoji comment from them on a photo I post. And on a like spiritual or like energetic level, I think that there are just times in your life where you vibe more with certain people, and there are people that are just supposed to be in your life for only a period of time and then fade out of your life. And social media makes it like impossible for that to happen organically. Like you have to consciously mute someone or consciously unfollow or block or whatever. If there's somebody that you're just not like gelling with for whatever reason, it's okay to take space from them, but to have to consciously be like, I'm muting this person or I'm unfollowing this person, I think it's really hard to manage that long term, or at least it was really hard for me. I think what ends up happening is a lot of people don't do that, and they just kind of keep all of this different complicated energy in their space and in their head for the rest of their life, you know, and they just let it build and build and build until like seeing somebody's face pop up on Insta stories like gives you a constant kind of reaction that you're just becoming like chronically desensitized to. And it just sucks. Like, it just feels bad. I just don't think that it's ideal to keep like a running log of every person you've ever met for the rest of your life, which is basically what platforms like Instagram have become, is just a running log of anybody I've ever known. I would say like the first kind of major thing that I realized upon leaving Instagram was like how liberated I felt to just eliminate that fluff. Yeah, it takes more work to maintain connections since I can't just like post a photo and like keep people updated that way. But I also feel like my relationships with a lot of people just became so much less complicated and so much easier because I cut the middleman out of our connection. Like no longer was like social media and the algorithm like determining how I felt about people. It was like a phone call or texting or like seeing somebody in person. That was my primary way of interacting with people, which was much more direct and much more true to my relationship with them. And yeah, that was like a very immediate, really awesome benefit of getting off Instagram, which kind of leads into my next realization, which was that Instagram satiated my desire to share with others and express myself in a way that was ultimately unfulfilling. I think that the desire to like share with others and express yourself is like a healthy and normal part of human life. But I found that instead of satiating my desire to be seen, to be heard, to create in a creative form that like expressed my thoughts and feelings with depth, I would just like get a quick fix by posting on Instagram or like giving a hot take on Twitter or whatever, shit posting basically. That would give me the immediate gratification of like instant feedback, you know, in the form of like likes or whatever. And I definitely think that like Instagram specifically works really well for like visual artists, photographers, graphic designers, painters. Like Instagram's a picture-based platform, so for some types of artists and creatives, it totally works, and I think it's like a great tool for them. But I think for a lot of people, like myself included, Instagram is more of like a quick fix to satiate the desire to be seen than it is like a true creative form of self-expression. And once I cut myself off from the access to that quick fix, I found that I was spending a lot more time doing like deeper focused work on projects or things that I wanted to learn about that I like actually cared about. For example, like I don't think I would have started posting on YouTube again had I not quit Instagram, because like now this is a way that I can like share my thoughts. And I think in general, denying yourself the temptation of instantly satisfying any insecurity or desire to be seen, it opens the door for you to think and create and explore on deeper levels than like a surface level quick fix. A lot of projects, whether it be like creative or like learning about something, they require a lot of focus and effort over sustained periods of time. And in particular, like Instagram's format of just like quick posting on your story or like a snapshot image of your life, I just think for a lot of people, it doesn't really scratch the itch of creativity and sharing and self-expression that people want. This leads into my next point, which is that a fractured attention span inhibits depth of knowledge. This realization was like the straw that broke the camel's back, that took me from just being like a passive lurker on Instagram who like wasn't really actively participating in it to being like, I need to delete this app, like I gotta go. I realized at some point that the types of conversations that I wanted to be having and the things that I wanted to be learning about were incompatible with the way that attention was fractured and like snippets were presented on social media. I don't think that the hot take economy is going to be able to solve anything, but I feel like hot takes are really what's like rewarded by the algorithm, both on Instagram and otherwise. I don't know, I just felt like even when I tried to learn about things in depth, I would just see like the responses and opinions and hot takes online, and I just was like unable to feel anything except just completely dispirited, demotivated, and completely unsure of what should be done. There are a lot of problems in the world, and most of them require thinking at depth and don't have good solutions, and that's like why they're not solved. I think that the social media algorithms really just like don't allow people the time and space to process and think for themselves. And on a personal level, like I just realized that I didn't have the attention span to be able to like engage with complicated, complex lines of thought, because my opinion and attention were like constantly being pulled in all these different directions. It just became glaringly obvious to me how impossible it is to have meaningful dissent or discourse in the culture of social media. We learn a lot of buzzwords, we learn like what opinions we should and shouldn't have, and then we kind of just like regurgitate them and think that that's understanding or educating or doing things. Yeah, I just really wanted to distance myself from that. Another thing I realized is that people feel more comfortable expressing themselves behind a screen than they do face to face. I know that this is a cliche, like, you know, people say shit online that they would never say to your face, like cyberbullying and all that stuff. Like, I know. And I think what I'm getting at is a slightly different kind of iteration of it. There's a lot of stuff that people feel more comfortable posting about online than they do talking about face to face with the people that they love. And I think part of it is just like, you know, the phenomenon of expressing something when it's just you and the screen is very different than expressing it to like other people's faces that can react and like disapprove. And I can totally understand how for many people who don't feel accepted by the people in their life, like social media is a godsend. I felt that way as a kid. Like I connected so much more with people online than I did with people in person for many years of my life. Being able to find people in the digital world who you relate to, I know that that's life-changing and I would never discount that. But I think that that's different than posting to express yourself. Like you can have digital relationships that are like very intimate and meaningful. You can feel more comfortable with your friends online than you do with your friends in person. I don't think that's inherently a problem. I think the problem is that when you're specifically posting, not like chatting with someone directly, but posting, you aren't actually talking to anyone. You're creating intimacy with the performance of yourself and with like the bubble that has algorithmically been formed around you, but you're not really engaging with the people in your life. Because when you talk to people about things that you care about, you give them space to disagree with you. And I think that when you listen to somebody disagree with you and you actually see them do it, rather than just get like a caricature of what a disagreement looks like online, you actually learn why people think the way that they do. And I think that it's more productive to, instead of form more of a relationship with like yourself posting, to take that energy and talk to the people in your life about the things that you care about, or have real discussions with people. And I think a lot of people, have really strong opinions about things or care about things that they've never really tried to talk to anyone about. Even before like cutting back on my social media intake, I'd notice when talking to people that if we started talking about like, a political hot button issue, they started talking differently. Like they started talking in buzzwords and headlines that like I'd seen online. And I found that when I actually tried to engage people on like a conversation level about these things that clearly they care about for how much they posted about them, they just weren't able to actually talk about it. And I think that like just using posting as a form of self-expression or as like a way of communicating about things that you care about, I think it gives you kind of a fake version of interacting with people. Another thing I realized, social media is not inherently bad. Being off Instagram made me actually more aware of the things that I genuinely enjoyed about it, in addition to like all the things that I've kind of listed that were more like negative things. When I wasn't constantly being affected by the negatives of social media, I was able to appreciate the positives of it a lot more. As someone who grew up on social media and the internet, like I totally acknowledge the positive impact it had on my life. I don't know who I would be without the internet, and I'm thankful for that, finally. There's a lot of ways that I can interpret that negatively, but there are also so many positives that I would never, ever, ever give up. Connecting with people online, especially from a young age, it allowed me to form genuine, important relationships with people who I otherwise like never would have had the opportunity to meet or to care about at the depth that I do now. I moved far away from home a few years ago, and I don't discount that the ability to connect and maintain relationships from afar is something that has 100% greatly improved my life. I recognize that there's no like going back to a pure time before Instagram, and I wouldn't want to either. The ability to connect with each other in digital space is something that people genuinely want and can bring great benefit to people's lives. I really strongly identify with my digital self, but what I don't like is the ways in which my digital self and my relationship to my digital self and other people's digital selves are manipulated because the middleman sucks. My main takeaway from all of this is not that social media is inherently evil and that the only way to live a healthy life is to not live in modern society and like get off the grid. What it made me realize is that like I want better and I want more depth, and I don't want to just resign myself to a platform that doesn't make me happy and doesn't seem like it's bringing about the societal changes that I want to see in the world. And I know that it's a lot easier to admit defeat and to like manage the decline than it is to imagine how things could be different, but I feel like just getting off of Instagram really allowed me to open myself up to other ways of being online that made me happier. So now my relationship with social media, I'm still not on Instagram or Twitter. I don't think that I'll go back to either. I'm on YouTube, obviously, if you consider this a social media platform. I'm also on TikTok. And I spend a lot more time on like forums and like websites that are more specifically like for my interests rather than just like general kind of like social media. I don't think that I've figured out like my perfect relationship to my phone or social media. I definitely still struggle with getting lost in scrolling and just like zoning out of my life on my phone. And I feel like that's something that I constantly have to be working on and checking myself on. But I feel like taking that step back away from kind of my more like day-to-day social media use for such a long time, it really changed my life for the better. And finally, the last thing that I realized after leaving Instagram and social media is that healing is possible. There's basically no question at this point that social media negatively impacts our health. It's making us depressed, it's making us anxious, it's making us unable to think clearly, it's hurting our bodies, etc., etc. Like, we know this. For me, the main things were like my fractured attention span and my fractured connection with myself and with other people. What I found was that once I wasn't posting and scrolling anymore, after that initial kind of like transition withdrawal period, I found that it didn't really take that long for my mind and body to start to heal and to perceive of myself and the world around me differently. And for me, this was the first time that I ever really experienced that kind of transformation. I was reading a lot more, which helped me kind of reclaim my fractured attention span. I started gardening a lot more, and gardening helped me conceptualize growth and progress on timescales that felt realistic and natural and healthy. Getting deeper into my spirituality helped me feel a lot more connected to myself and to other people and to the world around me. It's sort of an indirect realization to have, but it was truly profound how quickly my perspective started to shift. My mind was less scattered. It was easier for me to find time and to focus on things like eating healthy, taking care of my body, like doing the things that I actually wanted to do. And just becoming connected to who I was came so quickly after getting off of social media. It was so impactful to realize that I wasn't damned to be a certain way forever and to feel a certain way forever just because it was the way I grew up and all that I'd ever known. And yeah, it just feels really good to have gone through that. I took a while of just like being off everything completely, and then I started slowly like reintegrating various aspects of being online. And I'm pretty happy with where I'm at now. I wouldn't say it's perfect, you know, I still struggle with boundaries, like with scrolling and being on my phone. But I think just like having that removal, it allowed me to take control of my relationship to social media and to the digital world in a way that I don't feel like I ever really did. You know, I think that in all likelihood, the internet is going to be a part of my life for the rest of my life. Growing older, going through different phases of my life, I'm sure that reinventing my relationship with social media or with being online is just something that I'm going to have to do in order to stay happy and connected and to feel like my life is what I want. Yeah, this was a, lengthy discussion, but I hope that you enjoyed it. This is kind of my first like sit down and talk to the camera type of video. It feels really weird to just sit here and like stare into the cold dead lens of the camera, but we gotta do what we gotta do if we want to have a healthy and fulfilling relationship to posting. Okay, I'm done. I'm like driving myself crazy at this point. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like, comment about like your relationship to social media and how it has or hasn't changed. I'd love to know. Subscribe for more videos of some kind. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.